So basically, we were able to get the products, right? So if I go back to the browser and if I hit the URL for the products, it will give you the list of products. Of course, I can prettify it and you will get in this format. Now, basically, you got all the thing which is your server returning to the client. Of course, the data. Now, basically, we are fetching everything, right? And that's what you can see here. What if you want to fetch one? What if you want to add something in this list? Now, this is something we are going to do in this video. But before we do that, I want to talk about the other type of API tool which you can use, not just your browser. Because see, when you talk about REST API, and if you want to basically work with data, what we normally do with data is we send data. So you have your client here, and then this client will send data from client to server, then it will also accept data from server to client. What we are doing here is basically we are sending the data from server to client, right? But we do certain other things as well. We send data from client to server, right? To store something in the database if you want to do that. Sometimes we want to, so basically we are fetching and we are storing, right? So we got two things, fetch and send or store. Next, what if you want to update? What if you want to delete certain things? Example, the product here, maybe I want to delete this 103. Maybe I want to update this particular price here. So this thing you can do with the help of some type of request. Now, REST API basically uses a protocol called HTTP. We have talked about it before, and it has certain methods to work with. So basically your REST API uses a protocol called HTTP, which has certain methods to work with. So if you want to fetch something, we have a get method. If you want to store something on the server, we use post. If you want to update something, we use put. If you want to delete something, we have delete. Apart from this, we have other methods as well, but these are four we normally use. Now, we also use something called a CRUD short, which is for create, read, update, delete. So we can create with the help of post. We can read with the help of get, we can update with the help of put, and we can delete with the help of delete. So these are the methods which is available. So REST uses HTTP, and we are going to use this. Now, by default, when you pass a URL in the browser, it sends the GET request. Now, this is what we have done. But what about post, put, delete? Now, this is not something you can do with your browser, right? So you can't simply use your address bar to change the method name. Now, this is where we have to use certain API tools to do that. One of the tool, we have multiple tools. One of the tool is Postman. So if you know how to use one tool, it is easier to explore the other as well. So here, what we're going to do is we are going to use this particular Postman. If you want to get this, so let me just talk about this. So this is a Postman. This is what the logo looks like. So if you search on the Google, I can also take you to the website. This is the official website of Postman. You can get it from here. It's free. They also have a paid version, but we don't want it. We are going for free version here, and it works. Okay. Of course, I could have used some advanced recent tool, but that's fine if this works. So how exactly we are going to hit the URL? It's very simple. You can say localhost :in 8090, that's our port number we are using, /, then you have to say products. Now, if you observe, we have a method called get here, right? Apart from this get, if you expand, there are multiple methods. We have post, put, patch, delete, head, options. We are going to use only 4. So let's say we have a get request. And when you click on this send button, it will send the request and you will get the response. So this is a response you got. Apart from response, you also get a status code here, which is 200. Now there are different status code options available in the series of 100, 200, 300, 400, 500. If you have seen, one of the most famous code which you get is 404 for resource not found. So that is a part of this status code. It comes under 400 series. So if something is wrong with the resources, it will send you 400 series. If something is wrong with the server, it will go for 500 series. If everything is going well, it will go in 200 series. So that's how we have different series. And we'll talk about this series in the upcoming videos. But we are getting the status code as well. This is a response time, which is 200. And yeah, and this is the size of data which you're getting back. So basically, this is your data here. Apart from the body, you also get some headers from the server. This is the header. So the type of data you're getting is JSON. That means you can also ask for the XML data if you want. But by default, it will send the JSON data. So let me go back to the body and you got the response. If you have more, you will see more. You can also check this in a text format, and this is how it looks like, but we want to see that in JSON format, which looks good. and that's what you got here. Okay, so this is what we have done to get data. But what about you want to, let's say, get one, not all, one. Something like this. I want the products for sure, but let's say I want the product with the ID 102. Can we do that? So we can simply say /102. This is how basically you also build your REST APIs, right? So you simply say products, which is a URL for all the products, and slash the ID, which you want to fetch, 102. And when you say send, it should fetch only one record. Now this is not working, and you can see we also got a status code called 404 or 404. The resource could not be found. We have talked about it. And this is the error which you got. Again, not a good looking error, but that's fine. It says not found. Let's solve this. I want to return one data. How do we do that? So I want to hit this URL. Now, to achieve that, we have to create one more method which will accept this particular URL. Products will only accept products, not the slash and the number. So what I'm going to do is I will say public. And this time we are not going to return the list of products. We are going to return only one product because we are accessing the unique field, which is product ID. So I'm going to say product, return one product. And instead of saying get products, I will say get product by their ID. So we can just use this name. You can also say product, get product, that works. I will say get product by ID. And here I will accept the ID. So whatever ID I'm sending from there. So I will say prod ID, whatever you're sending from the client. And based on that ID, I'm going to fetch. So who is responsible to give me that? So I will say service. Hey service, it is your job. So I will say get product by ID. I want this method in the service layer as well. And then I'm going to pass the ID. Now, unfortunately, we don't have this method called get product ID or get product by ID in the service layer. And if you see the service class, let me just close the application properties. We don't need that now. If you go to the service class of product, we only got one method here, right? Which is get products. I want this as well. So I can ask my ID to give me that. So I can just click here and say create method. And we got the method now, but it has to do the actual work, right? Now this is tricky. How will you get this particular data? Now the data is something in the list, right? Which is in this array list. So I can say return, and this has to come from the products. So it's a products.get. Now I'm not sure in which particular method I can get that. I just want the product based on their ID, right? So basically what we can do here is we have multiple ways. We can use normal for loop, enhanced for loop to get the data, or I can use the Java Stream API. If you're not sure what Stream API is, you can find the link in description. If it is not there, let me know in the comments. I will just put that. So what I will do is I will say, hey, I got the list of products. From this products, I want to create a stream, because using stream, you can filter the products. So I'll say filter dot, stream dot, and I can apply a filter. Now filter based on what? For any product which I get from the stream, if the product, get product ID, if it is matching with the product ID, okay, the moment we get this, and I just want to stop this search once I get this product, and I will say find first, because stream has no idea that we have a unique product ID. Stream says, okay, I will filter this, but there might be chance that you will get multiple. So I will say find first to get the first element, and then find first dot get. Now this will return you the product. Okay, so this is the logic. Of course, you can also use normal for loop. And if you have that logic with you, put that in comments so that others can say it. And if you're not sure what Stream API is, you will get the link in description. Okay, so this implementation is done. In the controller, I'm asking the service to do that for me. And now I want to check if this is working. Let's restart the application. Okay, it's still working and done. Now, where do we test it? So of course I can do that in the browser. So I will say products / I want to mention 103, and we got the error. Okay, still not working. Something is wrong. Now what is missing here? Most important thing, we are missing the request mapping. So the request mapping has to be done for the /products / for 103, right? We have to do the mapping there. And now after doing the mapping of 103, let's see if this works. And this time I'm going to test that in the Postman. So I will say send the request for 103, send. Okay, it's still not working. It says optional int parameter product is present, but cannot be translated to null due to declare as a primitive type. Okay, So what's the next problem? Okay, first of all, there are two problems. Okay, I wanted to show you that problem, but then I realized I have to first talk about this one. See, the problem here is you are passing, you're writing 103, right? Which is the hard-coded values. Don't you think we are not going to search for 103 always? We might want to search for 102 or 101 or 1010 later. How are you going to change that? So I don't want this to be static. I don't want it to be dynamic. So what you can do is you can use a syntax call, you can put a curly brackets here and you can put your variable name or the some text there, which is per ID, not the number. Now what Spring will do is whatever is coming in the browser, so which is this, it will convert your 103 or it will store your 103 here, it will map it, and that has to be mapped here in the prod ID. Apart from this, you have to also use a annotation called path variable because we want to match it now. So you want to match your prod ID with this prod ID, so you have to use this annotation called path variable. Okay, there are a lot of annotations will be coming up, and once you get used to it, you will remember. But since we are accepting the value from the path of the address bar or the address, the annotation name is path variable. And by making those changes, we have solved two problems. And now let's see if this works. With 103, send, it worked. For 102, send, it worked. For 101, it worked. For 105, which is not there, it will give you the usual error. But then this time it's not saying that it's not found. The request has been sent. It's just that the data is not there, right? You can also solve this. You can handle these exceptions by handling it on the server side, but we're not going to do that now. Okay. So this is what you got. You can do one more thing if you want. In the service, when you say get here, you can say find first dot or else you can pass a new product with a dummy value. Let's say 100, no item, and the price is 0. So what we'll do is, if the item is not found, because 105 is not there in this, right? So at this point, you can return with no item. So now if I restart the app, there is one way of handling it, not the best way, but one way. Now if you send request for this, you will see you got 100, no item, 0 price. Okay, but again, not a good idea or not the best solution. So what we have done now is we have basically fetching the data with the help of / with the product ID. Next, maybe I want to send data and store that in this list here. So how do I do that? What I want to do is I want to create a method which will add the product. So basically we have to send this product from the client to server. So I'm doing that in the service now. So I'm going in the reverse order. For the get, we went from client to controller to service. This time we are coding from service. So I want to basically first of all accept the product. And I will say prod here. And I want to save this product in the list. The list name is products dot. I want to say add, and I want to add, let's say, I want to add this product. Okay, so this is done. Now we have to make the changes in the controller. So in the controller as well, I will create a method which will return nothing. And we can say add product, which will accept the product from the client. And this is beauty, right? Because from the client side, you are going to send JSON. On the server side, it will be getting converted automatically in the object format. In fact, if you observe, when you are sending the list of products or even a single product, you are sending the object format, right? And what you are getting on the client side is JSON. Who is doing that? Someone is converting the data from Java object to JSON, from JSON to Java object. And that's where you got a library here. So when you add Spring Web, you by default get one of the library called Jackson. So if you expand this, there's a Jackson library here. Now this Jackson library is responsible to convert your object into JSON, from JSON to object. So it does that for you. So I will say product prod, and we can simply use the service layer, service.add, and pass it. So if you observe, we are not doing anything in the controller, right? Controller job is just to accept the request. If you want to do certain things, ask your service layer to do that. You don't do it, right? So this is fun, but we have to do the mapping as well. So I will say request mapping, and this time we'll do it for the product. So we're not saying products, we are saying product, or we can also say products, that's fine. Sending a request for the products, right? But here's the problem. If you see this products and this looks same, right? That means for two different methods, we are using the same URL. Will it work? It will not. There will be confusion, right? And that's where you can use those methods. Remember post, get, but we have not used this method, right? This is get request. This is also a get request. We have not mentioned it. It's because by default, the methods are get methods. If you want to use something else, we have to mention that. So you can give a comma here and you can mention the method type, or you can use some specialized annotation here. So what you can do is instead of using request mapping, you can say get mapping. So here also instead of saying request mapping, you say get mapping. And for the post, instead of saying request mapping, we are going to use post mapping. Now these two mappings are different is because of their methods. The URL looks same, this one and this one, but the methods are different, right? So the controller and service done. Now let's try to work with the client side. See, for the post request, we can't simply use the address bar. You can create a React application using which you can send this data. Otherwise, you can also create a form. But again, you have to do that in the JavaScript. You have to do some code to achieve that. But we're not going to do that. We are going to simply use Postman. So after making these changes, I'm going to restart the application. And I think it might fail because of the way you have defined the list. Let me just check that later. Let's go back to the Postman. And now instead of sending a get request, we have to send a post request. What is the URL? The same URL, the products, right? We're not changing the URL between the get products and add product. We're just changing the method here. This is a response. We're not supposed to touch the response. We have to touch the URL. I will click on send, and you can see we got an error. Unsupported operation. Okay, it's with the list, right? So if this is the error I'm talking about. But okay, we'll talk about this error later. But one more thing, we are not sending any data, right? So basically we have to send the data as well in the body here. Okay. Now how will you send data? It's very simple. You click on the raw here and select JSON because you're sending JSON data, and you can enter your JSON data here. But if you're not good with JSON, that's fine. What you can do is let's send the request for 101. So this is a history. You can just get your old URL and you can hit that. So we got this. I will just copy this and go back here for the post request. Go to body, raw, and JSON. Put your data here and update it. So this is 104. I want to create a new one. Let's say what I have in on my table. Let's say AC remote, and the price is, let's say, 2,000. I don't know what's the cost of AC remote. So let's say we have 2,000, and now we just have to send it. Again, we got the same problem. So we are sending data. There's no problem with the sending data. The problem is, I think, when we create as list, it creates a immutable list. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say new add a list, and I'm going to pass this add a list inside this. So it will make it mutable. It's not able to add the data. So new add a list, that's what I added here. Let's restart the app. And now, hopefully this will work. I will say send. Okay, something worked. We have not gotten a response because in the controller we are using void, right? It's not returning the data. But you got status, it says 200. How do I verify this? That's tricky, right? The way you can verify that is by sending a request for the get. Let's get all the products. And, okay, no, it's not working. You can see we got 0, null, and 0. It's not getting added. What's wrong? Let me just check my controller. I know the error. I got to know the error. But I want to show you that. What I will do is I will just try to print whatever we are accepting on the client, on the server side. And let's see what you are getting. That will solve the problem. So server restart done. I will send the same request, which we have done before. The body is still intact. I will say send. We got the same response. But if you see the, okay, well, my bad. Now, since I thought we are using Lombok, which we are not doing that, I should have added toString method, because in Lombok you get that by default. Now, since I'm using Lombok from a long time, it normally works. So I will say toString and restart. It was printing the address. I don't want the hash code. Let's say send. And this is what you're getting on the server. So that means what you're sending from the client is not actually getting received on the server side. It's because to achieve that, we have to use one annotation called request body. Now, since you are sending a body from the client to the server, you have to use this annotation called request body. Now, this will try to match the data which you are sending and put that in the product, the prod thing here. Okay, I hope this time it will work. I hope. And you learn from errors, right? You know now why certain things, why we are using certain things the way we are, and now send same response. But on the client side, if you see, or on the console, if you see, you are getting the data, what you're seeing from the client. And now let me send the get request. Send, go down, and you can see we got 104. Good, right? The only problem is we are using a list in the code. It's not storing in the database. The moment I restart the application, that you will lose this data. But anyway, the point is it's working. So now we know how to use get, we know how to use post. We also know how to get the data using one. How about put and delete? Let's try to do that in the next video. So till this point, what we have done is we know how to use Postman to work with the APIs. We have sent the get request and post request. It's fun. So just want to show you the product controller once. So we got 3 mappings, get mapping, and post mapping, right? So how do we do put and delete? Let's see that in the next video. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.